Hey, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Micah Foster, and you are listening to From the Garoffice. This podcast is really all about faith in the digital space. And so today I've got a great conversation with a Tik Tok superstar named Kevin Wilson. He's just kind of blown up on TikTok. I knew him before, so I knew him way back when. And he's learned a lot of lessons. So here's a fascinating conversation about Kevin Wilson and his TikTok rise to fame and what that means for him. Enjoy. Well, Kevin, I really appreciate you taking some time just to hang out with me and let me know what you've been learning, especially as you've been using and utilizing digital for ministry and reaching new audiences and things of that sort. And I apologize because we did a recording like this like a year ago, and I totally botched it. It didn't work. The audio didn't work. So now we finally get to do this again. But I'm also glad because you've learned so much in the past year. So give us a little bit of context for your life, your ministry, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Wow. So I am a associate pastor of youth and young adults at my local church here in San Diego, California. And I've been here for about 4.5 years. Before San Diego, I finished my MDiv at a seminary in Michigan. Before that, I did my bachelor's in theology in Michigan. And then before that, I came to the States when I was 18. So I'm 30 now. So I've been here in the States for that long for time period. Married, one wife, and 2 fur children, 2 cats. No kids, looking forward to kids. But that's just my setting outside of everything else people usually see online. But that's kind of yeah.
Oh, and how does your wife, I don't think I've ever seen your wife. Maybe I've seen her in a video. I don't know if she's ever been in one of your videos.
Yeah, she's been in maybe 1 or 2 of my videos on Instagram. She's very private, very, very private. She doesn't want to be seen online. And I do remember you telling me something similar about your wife as well.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. There are some people who they'll do podcasts with their wife, video podcasts with their wife, people we know, and it's great. But that's just not our context. My wife does not. She is not interested in doing that at all.
And that's totally fine. Different people are wired differently. And yeah, so but she's a performer. My wife is a performer, but so she actually has a YouTube channel and where she uploads like song covers and things like that. She's got a phenomenal voice. So I've been kind of encouraging her to just kind of get her stuff out there. So that's been happening.
Cool.
So it's been good.
So what is her channel so we can all go check it out now?
Oh, Eileen Wilson. So that's her name. So ELYNN, Eileen Wilson. And yeah, so if we just hit that name up, I think some things will.
There we go. We'll have to do it now. Gotta go check it out, man. So, so when we had left off in our undocumented conversation, you were just starting to really hit TikTok full force. Like your videos were starting to blow up a little bit. And so tell me what has happened with that. Tell us kind of catch us up, what happened with it, and then what's happened since then.
Yeah, I can't remember when we got on the podcast. It would have been probably maybe September, October or something of last year, maybe. I don't know.
I think it was more like April or May, but yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, a lot has happened since then.
Yes.
So I think it'll be good time to just kind of catch up with all of that stuff. Yeah, so at the time, I think I was just shy of like 100K or something like that. I don't know, something like that. But yeah, now it's been a year since I've gotten on TikTok, and I'm at 154K, and huge, just a very active community out there, all centered around chai. So for those of you watching for the first time, like that's kind of what I do on TikTok. I went viral on February for posting a chai video. And chai, for those of you who don't know what that is, you probably know it by chai tea, but I'm here to kind of educate
Please
the
do.
masses here.
Because I'm telling you, man, I love myself a Starbucks chai tea. So you can educate me right now.
Yeah, so that's a whole different podcast on like how chai tea is just the whole. That's a whole different episode, man. On like how chai tea latte, just that concept is just a really good example of cultural appropriation and all these different things. And that doesn't make you a bad person. I'm
I
just talking about
appreciate
from a
you
system.
giving me some grace in that. Yeah.
No, you are fine. I think a lot of people don't know, but we know why we are talking about South Asians. So that's people from Sri Lanka, Pakistan, India, that part of the world in Asia. I'm Sri Lankan. I was born in Sri Lanka. This is something that is such a core part of our culture, and so tea is such an important piece, and as such, it's a great placeholder for things like home and family and slowing down and culture and all these different things, right? And so when I moved to the States at 18, one of the things that I wanted to do was to hold on to things that would remind me of home, and one of the things was chai. So, excuse me, I used to make tea here for my friends, and people knew uh, about that, close friends and colleagues of mine. And it was not till February of last year where my interest of chai kind of went viral per se, when I started to just experiment with TikTok. I just put one video, just a shoddy little video that I shot with a bunch of Instagram stories all stitched together with a very haphazard voiceover, and I put it online. And then within a couple of days, that thing just blew up. And I think right now that video is at like 800,000 views or something like that. It's kind of crazy. And that was about that was in February. And ever since then, I just kind of started to just see where the attention is going, and started to really put content as solutions to problems that people were having, specifically when it came to chai and the chai making process. And so that's kind of what I did. And so people liked it. I think people really felt like this was a new way of making a favorite beverage of theirs. A lot of people did not know the history behind the beverage. A lot of people were unaware of the cultural underpinnings and the history of the drink, which is very rich. And so I kind of took that opportunity to educate, but also entertain. And so that's kind of how this community grew. But somewhere around, I want to say February, March, April. I think April, things started to take a different turn when I started to duet people on TikTok. If you're familiar with how TikTok works, you can duet other people making tea, or you can use the duet feature to just basically do a live reaction, and put it as a part of your content on your feed. And typically what people use duets for is to make fun of somebody else on the other side, or to or to just get more views at the expense of somebody else. So I decided to just do something a little different. I started to duet chai making videos, and just kind of critique them, but just say a couple of things here and there, be a little passive aggressive, and also be a little kind at the same time. And that took off as well. And what started off as kind of a joke, and started off as kind of like a lighthearted thing, eventually became a little serious, because I started to read comments of people saying things like, man, like if you were my pastor, I wouldn't have left the church. And like you're the older brother, like I wish I had. Or man, can you just do a video of just you saying like things are gonna be okay? Because like I need to hear that things are gonna be okay right now. And that's when things started to get really serious. And I was just like, wait, what's going on here? Because here am I just putting videos out there just because I wanted to share something fun. And it's become something more than just fun. It's actually creating this community of people who want some peace and comfort in their lives. And so I leaned into that a little bit more after a lot of prayer and contemplation, and thinking about like, how can we use this in a meaningful way to bridge the gap between somebody else and Jesus, somebody else and God. I decided to experiment with storytelling, and so started to share stories over chai. So I would make the tea, a different tea recipe. I would have the recipe on Instagram, so people would have to follow me there, whatever. But I would basically share a story from my culture, a story from my life, but a story that that other people can find resonance with. So I would touch on themes like creativity and productivity and uh, comfort and home and slowing down. And like I would try to find stories from my life or other people's lives that I can now use to couch these messages or package these messages. And so when people are watching the video, they're not only getting like a chai recipe, but they're also getting a message. Um, and I decided to do that for a couple of reasons. Number one, most of my followers are actually not Christian on TikTok. They're actually, for the lack of a better word, you would call them secular or none or a-religious or whatnot. And I know this because of the many different conversations that I've had in the comments. I would have people coming up and saying, "Hey, man, you're the only Christian that I would follow," or um, I left the church like a while ago, and I can't really figure out. I can't stomach anybody else or anything else talking about Christianity or Jesus, but I'm here for some reason. I don't know why, and stuff like this, man. And over time, it just kind of became this nice little community for people to just come and hang out, And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. We can get even deeper than that, but that's the kind of the broad overview of what's been happening with me on TikTok.
So, all right. So you've got, let me see if I understand this. You started this just kind of for fun, right? You just started post. You're just like, I'll throw up a chai making video, and people liked it, and they started following it. So you kind of followed the rabbit trail. Okay, what else could I do? You started duetting, responding to whatever. People still kept following you. Those blew up. Then you started trying to insert more perhaps meaningful conversations over the top of what's already working for you. And people started looking for a prophet for their life.
Oh man, no.
A pastor, a chai pastor that they could have over TikTok. I mean, really, people were responding to your voice, your clarity, your comfort, the way in which you communicate, which is a very sort of slowed down, peaceful way to communicate. Not only that, just the accent alone makes your voice very nice to listen to. You know what I mean? like it's a very the way you enunciate and pronounce certain things. It's not harsh. It's very warm and friendly. You understand what I'm saying? I don't know if you understand, but I feel that way. So that's what I think. So I like to hear you talk, Kevin. But so people have found you to be sort of their, you're the Christian I would follow. You're the one pastor if I would still be in a church if you were my pastor, that sort of thing. How does that make you feel, man?
Oh man. First of all, thank you for those kind words. If anybody who's listening to me and think like I'm like this crazy amazing person, you should talk to my wife sometime. But she can. But no, I appreciate that. When people started to tell me those things, I think initially I was terrified. I was really terrified because, because I know who I am.
Interesting, yeah.
We know who we are as pastors too, and I'm reminded of this quote by Henry Nouwen, who basically who uses this description to describe ministry leaders, and he calls us wounded healers. Wounded healers, meaning that we are people who have our own struggles and own issues that we have to deal with, and so many times it feels like it's from our scars and our wounds that we now minister to other people. And when we are up on the stage doing things, it's like deep down we have to always, at least I can speak for myself, I have to figure out how to still minister meaningfully, but also not put myself under the bus or to berate myself because I think that I'm not a worthy enough instrument or something like that. It's this kind of this balance, right?
Yeah.
Some people might call this imposter syndrome, and it's a version of it at least. And so that's kind of how I felt when people would say things like that. But over time, man, I think at this point, and there's just a ton more people who have joined the community. The story that I tell myself is that these are people that God has called me to serve. in whatever way possible. And so I see content creation as an extension of the Imago Dei, so an extension of the image of God, which is how God created us to be. And I understand that at least a part of that, part of what that means to me is that if God is love, then He's created us with a capacity to love and a capacity for love, and which means that everything that we do, every choice that we make, everything that we think or say or do should be flavored or influenced by or founded by other-centered love. And so I see the creative aspect from a Christian gospel-centered worldview to be an extension of the love of God through humans, through fallen human beings, right? And so when you keep that framework within your mind, I think it's at least it at least puts me in a place where I don't think that like I'm it, or like I'm building this empire, because no, there's a kingdom, bro. Like, I'm not trying to build an empire out here. I'm just here to serve. So it's an ongoing battle. It's an ongoing challenge to kind of keep that framework, and that depends on like how I spend time with God, in the secret place, in the quiet place. And that's kind of what I did in January when I took like 30 days off of social media, just at the height of my growth, bro. Like at the height of everything. Wow. And the subs were growing, the followership was going, and the Instagram was going crazy. Everything was just, my notifications were blowing up. I said, enough is enough. I need to stop right now, because I feel like I need help. I need to hear the voice of God. And so that's when I stopped. And so it's probably one of the best things that I've ever done for my soul in the last like few years. So yeah.
So you took 30 days, and and you said, this growing beast is draining me. Is that kind of how you were feeling?
It was draining me. That's maybe a part of it.
Okay.
The other part of it was that I just feel like I was experiencing some whiplash. You're going so fast that it's just like, and like, you just feel like, man, like you feel disoriented, And so that's kind of how I felt. I felt disoriented because I was growing at a dizzying speed, and I found myself really preoccupied with the analytics. I was finding myself preoccupied with comments, negative comments. I would have like 100 positive comments, but then like 2 or 3 negative comments would really trip me off, and I'm like, wait, what's going on here? And so I came to a point where I was just like, I need to really evaluate everything. And because if I need to continue this, I need to find out, first of all, if I need to continue this, because I want to know how this is going to fit with my vision for myself in the coming years. And if it doesn't fit anywhere, I'm willing to just kind of toss it out and just put my attentions in things, in resources, in opportunities that would actually move the needle forward when it comes to my own aspirations of what I want in my life. And so I was ready for that conversation. I was ready for God to reveal me those things. And so at the end of the 30 months, I was convinced that I need to keep doing this for many reasons. And so that's kind of what I did. So yeah, it was draining me, but also the explosive growth caused me a certain disorientation that I needed to kind of find some breathing space to be like, okay, God, you need to direct my paths, And so that's kind of why I did what I did.
That's a very mature thing to do. I mean, how many people do we know that, and we see online who have sort of this explosive growth, and, it just kind of destroys them. We've seen it over and over again. There are just people who have that. It becomes their everything, their all. And for you to be able to say, I'm willing to throw this out, that's where you got to live. You always got to be in that place, right? You always have to be in that place to be willing to throw it out. So I think that's pretty big. I get you on the negative comments thing. I recently took a light dive, not a deep dive, a light dive into Reddit for a bunch of different reasons. I just wanted to see what really, there's a few different things I wanted to explore it for. And so I joined a couple of subreddits. One of them was a Dave Ramsey one. We're going through Dave Ramsey stuff. We're doing some financial stuff. So I was really excited about something we did. And so I shared, that we had moved on to another baby step of the Dave Ramsey financial plan. And and I had been in there a few times. People have been pretty encouraging because everyone has the same framework of what they're working from, right? So I'm like, this is a safe place to talk about these wins and celebrate it really with a few people. And in this particular step, I guess there's a lot of disagreement. And so the people went crazy. The Redditors went nuts on this one thing I posted, and I was like, and it was like, it felt like a personal attack. And I was like, oh, I don't like this. What is this? And so I was like, I felt this need to like defend myself and go in there and, prove everyone wrong. And then eventually at the end of the day, I was like, yeah, I don't need this. So I just said, thanks for anyone who's genuinely trying to help me. This has turned into something I didn't want it to turn into. So I'm just going to delete this. And I left that little subreddit because I didn't want to deal with it. I'm like, this is just eating my brain, my energy. I don't have the bandwidth for this. I don't want to be involved in this if it's going to be like this. So so I left that one. And then I got some private messages from people who were in the comments. Oh, I see you're a believer. I didn't mean to offend you. And I'm like, hey, I just, I don't have time for those kinds of conversations. If we want to encourage one another, that's cool, man. But I just don't have time for you to like belittle my personal win, and kind of come onto the attack. So I just said, peace out. I don't want to be a part of it. So I totally get the negative comment thing, and those can outweigh all the positive. It's just like in life, one of the interesting things though is that like the words of your parents carry the weight of like 1,000 pounds, right? Because they're just a people with influence in your life. No matter how good or bad the relationship is, what they say is going to matter so much. And for some reason, there's a lot of weight to those online negative comments, and I don't quite understand what that is, because we give them so much more weight than all the positivity and all that stuff. And really, the positive or negative shouldn't be our measure or what we're looking to gain, because we're there to give, right? We're there to create for others, not to gain some sort of piece of our identity that's missing. So I don't know, man. A lot of people struggle with it. I can tell you that much.
No, absolutely, bro. I mean, I think it's just a human thing, man. Like, we want to feel accepted, we want to be known, we want to be understood, right? Like, that's like a visceral, deep thing. And yeah, even for us, Christian content creators, whoever's listening, like, that's going to be an ongoing challenge. For those of you watching right now, that's a risk that you're taking. The risk that you're taking when you put something onto the internet is that someone would misunderstand you, misappropriate what you said, abuse what you said. Like, it's just a risk that we have to take. And so, yeah, the challenge is to try to keep the eye on the right thing and the most important thing. Two things that I have been telling myself recently when it comes to negative comments, because I get a ton on TikTok, like a lot actually, on a pretty much a daily basis. Because especially from my own like South Asian people who think that like it's not that deep, like don't talk about chai like this, like just give the damn recipe, sorry. But that's what they do. That's what they do. And so I'm like, man, it's be our own people sometimes. So two things I've told myself, and this is kind of helped me reframe some of these things, is number one, when I see a negative comment, I say, they don't know my story. First thing that I tell myself, they don't know my story. Like, I know my story. God knows my story. They see the comment, but that doesn't mean that they know my story. Right. You see, they don't see all the behind the scenes. They don't see all the life experiences that have led to that one thing that I said. In your case, the Dave Ramsey thing. They don't see the struggles, the pain, and the sacrifices that you've gone through to actually get to that milestone, right? So they don't see that. So number one, they don't see my story. They don't know my story. The second thing that I tell myself is they probably don't know their own story. Because like, I think, and maybe I'm being a little bit more, maybe I'm reaching too much in this, but like, if people really know who they are, if people really know their own value, and their own kind of self-worth. Like, I don't think they would not necessarily need to take the time to um, write something negative on somebody's comment when all you literally could have done is just to scroll by. Like, you need to be in kind of a really negative space for you to just take the time to articulate your thoughts and say something really mean and put somebody down. And so I don't think so. If people know who they really are, if they know that they are valued, they are understood, and they're loved, like, they wouldn't do something like that. And so that kind of helps me reframe some of those ideas. It still hurts, it still stings,
Sure.
but those things kind of help me to kind of maybe put some distance between you as a creator and the people who are consuming your content. I think that's very, very healthy and important.
Very good, man. So tell me, okay, so now you're in this place where you've taken this 30-day break. You've come back swinging. You've said, I need to be here for a bunch of reasons. So what are you doing now? Is there something different to what you're doing? Is there something new? Is there a new spin or a new purpose for which you are doing this?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. So I am coming back for a couple of reasons, and I've come back quite, like you said, guns blazing, and just I'm putting most of my effort into TikTok, because number one, I really want to encourage aspiring pastors and theologians to rethink what ministry could be like in a post-pandemic world. And I want to have, and I see my TikTok as kind of like this archive of case studies that I can show people, tangible data that I can show people and say, look, this is ministry. By the way, let me show you some comments. This is what it can look like. This is also what ministry can look like in a secular age, in an age where people are allergic to Christianity, in an age where most people are allergic to institutionalized religion, in an age where religion and Christianity has been co-opted by politics or certain ideologies, right? And so people are just like, man, I don't want to do anything with that. So, but what I'm doing is ministry, bro. And for the longest time, I didn't want to admit that. For the longest time, I was just like, I'm just creating stuff. It's not ministry. But I've come to realize that this is ministry. And what is ministry in the end of the day? Ministry in the end of the day is service, man. I think that's what I want to like put service that's seasoned with the love of Jesus, right? No strings attached. I think that's kind of what I see as ministry. Well, my definition of ministry comes also from Paul in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, when he talks about how, he says, if therefore anyone is in Christ, he's a new creation. The old has gone. Behold, everything has become new. And then he goes on to say, because of this, God has reconciled himself to the world, and by making him who knew no sin to be sin, so that we can become the righteousness of God. We're getting into some theology here. And then he says, because of this, I have given you the ministry of reconciliation. Specifically that phrase, the ministry of reconciliation. For me, what that means is, okay, if God so loved the world and he brought everybody towards him, and he's doing whatever he can to now reconcile the world towards him through the Holy Spirit, through the preached word, through the gospel, through the word of God, then that means the Holy Spirit's already at work. And why is he doing that? Because he's trying to bring the world to himself. Now, if he's given us the ministry of reconciliation, in my mind, how I understand that is every single Christian has a ministry, and that ministry is to reduce the gap between others and Jesus. Doing whatever you want. So this doesn't necessarily mean that you have to now ditch your job and become a pastor. If that's a calling, that's a calling, sure. But this means that whatever you do, wherever you are, whatever you post, you're doing everything with the understanding that, or asking yourself the question, how is this reducing the gap between God and them? How is it reducing the gap between Jesus and them? How is it reducing the gap? So for me, I see my TikTok as reducing the gap in some ways. It's a feeble attempt to do that through storytelling. And so that's what I'm going to double down on moving forward. I really believe that storytelling is such a disarming way to do ministry in a post-Christian, post-modern world, where where you say when you share your story, you kind of give other people the permission to share their own story, or at the very least to look into their own lives. And when this happens, you create this kind of this shared space in which you can now learn. We can learn together. And
Right.
so that's kind of what I've understood with my chai content. Like, I'm actually sharing a lot of stories from my culture, from other people, from my life. And so there are people who just send me DMs saying, yo bro, I thought like I was the only one, or wow, like I didn't think there were other people who are going through the same thing. And so, yeah. And some of them would ask questions about God and Jesus pertaining to that. And so when that happens, I'm more than welcome to have a conversation about that. And I've never shied away from the fact that I'm a pastor. And that's the funny thing. Like, this whole time, I never took that thing off my bio. I just wanted to experiment. Like, I wanted to see, would people still keep coming when they know that like I'm still a pastor? Would people still keep coming when if I tell them if I'm still a Christian? And that's kind of, for the most part, what's been happening, man, and which is crazy to me. And this is not anything about like me or what I'm doing. It's more like I feel like I'm tapping into a way of doing ministry that I haven't been taught or I haven't seen other people do. And so, yeah, so that's kind of why I'm doubling down and moving forward. But I also kind of want to fire up my YouTube as well. I think moving forward, bro, I'm going to fire up my YouTube for specifically talk to ministry leaders who are also content creators, to kind of give them like a behind the scenes look into like what goes into what I do, or the
Yeah.
thinking and the processing that goes into what I do. So more how-to tips, more strategy type content. It's not going to be for everybody. It's going to be very niche, but let's see how that takes off. And yeah.
Well, I'm subbed, so I'm looking for that. I'm watching for that, man, because I've done some experimenting too on TikTok, and I've really, really slowed down my TikTok stuff because I've just concentrated other places. But when I was just starting and I had like a how to read the Bible kind of thing, and it went, I don't know what it's at. I haven't even checked recently, but it's still going. It's still gaining. Like, when you have a video that hits, it just keeps gaining, is a crazy thing on TikTok. And so it's still every day getting views and stuff. And I've had real conversations with people, like you're saying, in the they'll direct message you, or they'll just type it in the comment section. And I did some lives where those people would come and be live, and that was all interesting and everything. And then the pandemic hit, and then I was like, I gotta take my whole church online. So that was, I had to kind of refocus to try and help all the people who are part of our church get into our online community, which I'm still doing. I'm still trying to get them to do that in some way. Some people are very resistant to this whole thing. So, but I love what you're saying about this is a way, not the way, a way to do ministry in a secular world, post modern world, post-Christian world, all these terms that we use to say we're not the vocal majority. And so, and we've been hijacked by people. The banner Christian has been hijacked by people that has really hurt the image of Christ in the world, the image of the church, at least, in the world.
Absolutely.
And even recently, I think you made a video on somebody who was highly influential, and had after their death, things came out, and it's just devastating.
Bro. Yeah.
It's just devastating. So we gotta be accountable to one another, and man, that's so much of that is going on in our culture. So I appreciate what you're saying about this is a way to reach people, and you're reaching people with a certain interest. It's very, very interesting. You remember back when there were like churches that were popping up that were niched down in terms of their interests. Like there was skate church, there was a church for skaters, and I've been on a podcast with a guy who does church for gamers, right? And he's kind of blowing up right now in his own way. And, there's just sort of these interest group things. But historically, most churches have been centered around location and even perhaps culture a little bit. And so Now we're all trying to figure out, all right, the walls are gone. What is possible is so much bigger than we ever thought, because there's so many tools out there. So what does that look like? So you've at least shown one example of what it can look like for reaching a culture. So what are some of the things that okay, take me through a conversation you have someone, maybe it's not a real conversation, but someone reaches out to you. They're like, hey, Kevin, you're like my pastor. Your TikToks are like, they're like my church service, or they're like my Bible study. What do you do to help someone in that situation?
My first reaction when I see something like that is to kind of get an idea of where they are. So like what their needs are and what they're looking for. And so I try my, and here's a sad situation. I don't have time to dedicate to like a long-term conversation with somebody as much as I would love to, just because it's just so much, man. And so you know how it is. So I try to shortcut that, especially if it's online conversations. And the way that I do that is by responding to their direct question. So most of the time it's not a question. Most of the time they're like, oh, I just really appreciate your content, and I say thank you. That's why they kind of keep it there. But there have been times people have been like, okay, what are some things that I can do to grow in my relationship with God and things like that. And that's when I tell them, hey, what have you been doing so far? And then I'll go back and forth. So the principle there is, for me, assess where they are, and don't minister from where you are, minister to where they are. So start where they are, and they all have different life situations. And I try my best to kind of plug them into a local church, man, because like going online is one thing, but like I don't think any of this online stuff is a replacement for embodied real life incarnational ministry that we do in our local churches. I'm pretty strong on that. I don't think this pandemic has somehow weakened incarnational embodied physical worship. I think in many ways it has strengthened the need for it. And if anything, all these online situations, people connecting online, has only shown that people are just craving for connection and real connection. And most people are zoomed out. So what that means is, so that's why I usually try to kind of plug them into a community as much as possible. And again, depending on what they want and where they feel comfortable going. So I don't have like a list of churches or anything in my area or whatnot, but well, I do, but like I don't usually tell them, oh, go here. So I just kind of address them as individuals and their questions. So that's kind of what I do, man. I think moving forward though, it'll be really cool to kind of create like some product, some service, I would say, to benefit content creators who are Christian, and resource them. So I have a couple of ideas floating in my mind, but there's absolutely no way that I would do this by myself. So I'm just kind of surrendered this to the Lord and saying, hey, like if you want something to happen, like I'm available, but just letting you know. So that's kind of where that is going from the creator standpoint.
Well, if I can encourage you, I think it'd be really interesting to see at least what you're talking about, doing some kind of behind the scenes stuff on YouTube for those of us who are on the outside of what you do and would love to see your process. Because that's the thing. Content creators like to see the process. Like, what is the process? And the more you get into it, especially if you're using video or even pictures and stuff, like I love now to watch behind the scenes. How did they do that stuff?
Yep.
For video stuff now. And I'm just like, and now I'm thinking about it when I see a video. I'm like, how did they do this? It's just in my head. And so to see it is like, oh, yes, it's satisfying. And it shows you that, you can do something interesting. But anyway, I would encourage you to show us more of what you're doing. That would be awesome, man. I would love to see.
That's awesome, man. Well, thank you for that affirmation, because I was kind of going back and forth on like whether I should niche down on YouTube, because I started on doing vlogs just to kind of find my voice. We did that whole Vlog Your Ministry thing,
right?
The cohort, we were part of that, and we had some really good fun memories with that, and that's how we know each other. But moving forward, I miss talking to ministry leaders like you guys, like you, who are also creating content online, like on their own dime. Like
Right.
this is stuff that people are creating online, and they are not obligated to do any of this stuff, but they are still doing it because they see the value in it. So I think that's going to be my audience moving forward, because there's a ton of, like, I've recorded like 1.5 or 2 hours of like behind the scenes stuff that I have,
Yeah.
like a backlog of videos that I've done, just straight up raw content that I just want to like put out there. And I think I'm gonna do like I don't know, a Patreon, but like I'm on buymeacoffee.com, same thing as like Joshua Ververs is on. He's a buddy that
I have
a
one.
mutual friend.
No one's ever bought me a coffee, but I do have one. Yeah, so
Oh,
I know what
really?
you're talking
Okay, I didn't know that. So I think I'm gonna use that more as like a Patreon substitute. I just
Yeah.
don't like just how cluttered Patreon is. I think it's just too much overhead for me. But I think I'm gonna put all my stuff there, and for like a monthly subscription for people who want to get even more granular and have like one-on-one conversations with me about stuff. So yeah, I'm hoping to learn, man. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, well, I'd love to hear how it goes, because I think we're all trying to figure that out too. Okay, one more question. This is on the sort of personal financial side of your TikTok. So there's opportunity for monetization. So where are you at with that?
So
That's a personal question.
no, it is, but I think I wish more people would talk about it, to be honest. And so I'm glad you brought this up. Monetization. So last year was the first year that I actually made money, like off of whatever I've done online, and it came through TikTok. And so the first way that happened was through a brand sponsorship. So I started to make chai videos, and then one of the companies reached out to me and they said, "Hey, we would love to collaborate with something." Now it was just really cool, because that company was a company that I bought my chai stuff from
Perfect.
for a couple of weeks and months. And so for them to reach out to me, I was just like, man, this is crazy, because like I bought like all your stuff, and they were like, "Are you kidding me? Like, we're your biggest fans." I'm like, okay, so there was this nice synergy there.
That's great.
And so we worked out some sort of a deal where, I get like a monthly cut, monthly flat fee plus any sales that I get from my whatever code that people use to buy. So I had a code, Kevin10 or whatnot, which is still active right now. So that was like an exclusive brand sponsorship that I had from, I would say, September till the end of the year. And it was crazy because they were saying, I looked at the numbers at the end of the 4 months. They were able to kind of stay afloat because of like our campaign partnership. And that was a really humbling thing for me. I'm like, wow, God, like, thank you so much for helping me partner with a company like this and help them stay afloat. So that's one way. So brand sponsorship. So I'm in the process of having 2 more conversations with 2 other brands, chai brands, who are wanting to partner with me. So that's one way to do it. You can also, once you hit 100K on TikTok, you can now start to, sign up for the creator fund. So what that is it's kind of like think of like social security type of thing, where it's like this big pool of money, and like, right, everybody gets a cut based on views and stuff. And so depending on how many views you get a certain percentage or a certain amount of money. And so I've been getting a little bit from that. It's not much. It's almost like negligible. I mean, I'm talking about like for every 1,000 views, you get like 10 cents or even less, something like that. So if you're making a ton of views on TikTok, like it can be pretty substantial.
Right.
But I'm not definitely making a ton of money from that. So those are a couple of ways. Yeah. So I think people, if they want to think about TikTok and monetization through TikTok, some things to keep in mind is like, think of TikTok kind of as an attention funnel, and not like your end goal. And that's probably the mistake that a lot of TikTokers or people who are in TikTok make. They think that they need to just focus and double down on TikTok and just kind of stay there. Sure, you can, but TikTok works best as like this amazing attention funnel. So you have all this attention coming in. It has the best algorithm out of anything right now. Although Reels is kind of getting a little better, I think, right now. I've experimented with some Reels, and the algorithm in Reels particularly is doing good. But TikTok is probably on top. So think about all this attention coming in, and now as a creator, you have to now start to think about how can you now divert or redirect some of that attention to other places where you can actually get more money if you want to monetize your stuff. So So I'm getting some of that stuff to the Instagram, and I've realized that people on Instagram are more willing to buy your stuff if you're selling things more than people on TikTok, because the demographics are different. You might get the attention from TikTok. You have a lot of subs, but I think people should start to think about moving it to Instagram. And also, if you have AdSense on your YouTube, definitely a good idea to also find synergy to put stuff onto YouTube as well if you're going that ad route. I personally, and this is a whole different podcast for a different day, I'm actually not going to sign up for AdSense moving forward for YouTube, because I'm just learning a lot about the attention economy, and I just want to be in control of what people see on my channel. Like, I don't want them to see like a random ad that like I don't want them to see. So I think I'm just going to pay the premium fee for YouTube. So I'm actually paying them for their service, and like not getting money off of ads. It's going to be a risk, and then just asking people to just like donate through Buy Me a Coffee or like sign up for the membership thing. I'm going to experiment with that because I hate ads, bro. So that's it.
You think about it, it's kind of like what Christian radio does a little bit. Though you won't
expand on that a little bit more.
You won't. So Christian radio, typically in most markets, is ad free, except for maybe a couple of churches that they get to make something for. But it's mostly ad free, so you don't have commercials from businesses in the area. But instead, they ask people to pledge amounts so they can forecast what they're going to have to work with. And it's really the listener supported radio program. So it's like they're buying them a coffee. So that's what I'm saying is the difference will be you won't do like a 2-week campaign every year that your listeners go, oh, it's pledge time again. Stop doing the pledge. So that's the difference is you won't have that negative sort of, oh, it's pledge time. Now we're going to hear a bunch of pledge asks for 2 weeks, as they try to reach their goal. That's the annoying thing about it. But you get the rest of the year pretty much ad free. So that's what I mean.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Something like that. Something similar. But that's just complete. Like it's a preference thing for anybody who want to do it. But I just want to experiment with it. So that's those are some of the ways to monetize your TikTok, I think. So.
And then there is on the live, people can donate stuff.
Yes. Yeah. So people can actually donate gifts, and in order for them to donate gifts, they need to buy gifts. So whenever they give you gifts, you can actually translate those gifts to real money and then cash out later on at the end of the month or something like that. I haven't been going live too much on TikTok. I should probably do more of that, but I'm really protecting my time right now for stuff because
that's part of the thing. You got to know the tools and choose your tools.
That's it. That's it.
You don't have to use every tool because you're not, not everything is a nail. So you got to figure out what you're trying to do and then choose the appropriate tools. So that's what part of this podcast is about, is letting people know of the various tools and how different people are using them so that they can discover what are the tools best for what I'm trying to do. And so you provide a lot of great context for especially TikTok and how that has been a tool for you in reaching a segment of people that are loosely connected through an interest, but have the same human needs as all people. They need reconciliation with God. So thank you for spending some time talking about all of that with me. I really appreciate it because I know time is precious and you got a lot on your plate. So man, anything else? Where can people find you? What's your Buy Me a Coffee? What's your website? Whatever. Where can people find you if they want to help and support you?
Yeah, so you can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at Cross Culture Christian. Cross Culture Christian, one word. It's kind of my brand, and so that's where you'll find me. And over there's links to Buy Me a Coffee if you want to support. But yeah, man, that's where people can go.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you once again taking the time, and man, I just pray that God continues to bless your reach and give you personal health in the process, that your reach would grow for Jesus and that it wouldn't have a negative impact on you at all, man. That is my prayer for you. So thank you again.
Thank you for the opportunity, Micah. Thank you.
Well, I hope you found that valuable and helpful as you're trying to figure out what are the tools that I can utilize to express my faith, to share my faith online. Again, faith in the digital space. Thanks for hanging out with me on From the Garoffice with Micah Foster, and I'll see you in the next one.